you're not stuck because you're lazy. You're not stuck because you're unmotivated, and you're not stuck because you're broken. It's because of these patterns that we have. So your subconscious mind is like your inner autopilot, right? It controls about 95% of your decisions, your behaviors, and your emotional reactions. Most of it was formed before you were even like 8 years old. Okay. So my first book was published about a year and a half ago. There's a poster of it on the wall behind me. It's called Becoming More Me, Tapping into Success, Subconscious Secrets of an ADHD Entrepreneurial Mom. And a lot of what we're going to scratch the surface on here today is covered in much deeper ways within the pages of the book and other like free resources that I'm going to share with you at the end here. So I know that we may only have 60 minutes here, but there's so much more that you can do when we wrap up today that is going to support you on this journey. So in the book, I wrote, the subconscious mind is loyal, not logical. It will prioritize what feels familiar over what feels expansive every time. And there's literally no exception to that. So that's why you can know what you want to do, whether that's starting a business, showing up on social media, charging, higher prices, trusting someone, maybe a partner, maybe somebody else, getting present for and with the important people in your lives, your loved ones, maybe resting without feeling guilty, taking great care of yourself before you pour everything into everybody else, and still not do it. Okay? It's not a discipline issue. It's a safety issue. So kind of do a check-in on that again in the chat, and just type yes in the chat if you have ever sabotaged something you really wanted right as you started to get moving on it, right as it started to go well. Yeah. Okay. Yes, totally. Yep. Okay. All right. We're on the right track then, just making sure. So I want to introduce you to something that I call the S.A.F.E trap. It's an acronym. I like my acronyms. I don't know if it's an ADHD thing or what, but they help me remember things a lot easier than when I don't have an acronym. So this one starts, it's about why you stay stuck, even when you know better. So let's talk about those big blocks to just easy, aligned success. So your nervous system wants you to feel safe, right? But not in the way that you might think. This acronym explains why so many of us brilliant, driven, soul-led entrepreneurs and professionals find ourselves looping in resistance, procrastination, or even burnout, even when we are crystal clear on what we want. I bet I could ask most of you what your vision is and what you really want, and you probably could give me a pretty clear answer, right? So the S starts with, it's our survival mode thinking, right? So this is when everything feels like an emergency, or even like you can't prioritize, like you don't know what to do next because it all feels like it's super important. And then you end up feeling restless, unsettled, unless you are busy, productive, or like proving something. You might feel like rest equals laziness. I don't know if that's a common theme here or not. It was for me. Or it felt like wasting time that you don't have, or that you're, if you're not hustling, you are somehow like falling behind. You may even believe that you are somehow behind by saying things like, I need to get caught up, or I don't know how I'll ever get caught up. And I think a lot of us have a misunderstanding about the human construct of time, our timelines, and even like the divine timeline of things. Probably like a whole other workshop worth of stuff right there. But the subconscious message here is, if I stop, I won't be safe, right? And the reality of that is that like my freaking cortisol is so high, my stress is through the roof, and I'm going to burn out or have some severe backlash with my health, relationships, or livelihood if I can't take my foot off the gas. But we don't tend to respect those signals or that difference, the slowness and traction that can really give us what we desire. So yeah, this is a quote from my book. I believed peace was the reward for productivity, when really it's the foundation of true power. And I think that's really important to just kind of think on, because so many of us think that what we want is going to come from that chaos that we support over and over again, and it just creates more chaos. So that leads us to the A in this acronym, which is avoidance of expansion. Okay. This is when you say you want more, and I know everybody here does. If you wouldn't be here if you didn't want more in some area of your life. And maybe it's income, maybe it's visibility, maybe it's love, maybe it's health, but your system subtly resists it. Okay. This happened to me with my podcast, actually. We just celebrated 4 years with the Becoming More Me podcast. But I tell you what, I bought this very microphone in 2020 and just kind of looked at the box for a year. And I had some kind of story going in my head that I can vaguely remember now. It seems really far away since I've done now 4 years of, weekly podcasts. But it was something about the tech of it. Like I wouldn't know how to use it, or I think I was just afraid of like a lot of things. Honestly, now that I look back, I can see all the stories. I was afraid of the time commitment, all the things I needed to figure out, having to be consistent. Would it affect my ability to like be present and be a good parent? I have 4 boys. What would I talk about every week? Would anybody listen? Like, God forbid I started it and then there was no audience. Like that would be horrible, So yeah. So, Julie says too, that's also on my desk next to my coffee, a mic I haven't used yet. All right, we can get to that, Julie. I can help you out there. But yeah, so that's just a perfect example of, I was saying I wanted this next step. I wanted to, take my business to the next level through a weekly podcast. And then it took me forever to do it. And I ended up ripping the Band-Aid off with a perfectly imperfect episode. Literally episode 0 is called No Such Thing as Ready, So I Begin. And it sucks, honestly. Like if I listen to it again, I cringe, but you know what? I got it done. I started, and it's been really refreshing. I know a few of you have messaged me over the last few weeks saying that like you just found my podcast and that instead of starting from the recent episodes that you were actually starting from the beginning. And I was like, oh, that'll be an interesting journey. Like I'm not even that same person that I was when I started it, but have fun with that. Like, there's still a lot to resonate there, and like we get to grow together by listening to it over that time. So that's kind of cool. And everything is just as it was on there, whether it was, cringy or not. But, expansion feels unfamiliar, and unfamiliar feels unsafe. So you end up delaying things, procrastinating, shrinking, accepting like this strange disclarity that feels untrue for you. And then you stay busy with the things that change absolutely nothing, right? How many of you can relate to that? Like the things that you are keeping yourself busy with are just worthless. You're like cleaning out a kitchen drawer or reorganizing like the desktop on your computer, cleaning out your email inbox, some other BS that is not changing your life in any significant way. So that takes us to the next quote from my book that I would like to share, which is the subconscious doesn't care about your goals. It cares about your safety. Okay, this is also another truth. And this will take us up to the F in S.A.F.E, which is fear-based decisions. So this could be a lot of things, but it could be like when you say yes when you mean no, you stay quiet when you want to speak up, you choose the safe thing instead of the like bold thing, or you don't decide at all because you're afraid that your decision will be the wrong thing. And in doing that, you fail to realize that not deciding is a decision and it has a result all its own. Okay? These choices come from the nervous system trying to avoid risk, rejection, and failure. It does not come from your empowered self. It does not come from your highest self. It's not indecision either. It's projection and it's protection. Okay? So another quote from the book, until I learned to regulate my nervous system, my decisions were often driven by fear disguised as logic. That's how things were for me. Does that feel like how things might be for some of you? And this will take us to the E. Okay, so the E in S.A.F.E is energy leaks from past conditioning. These are the subconscious programs still running from childhood trauma or culture, the things that are telling you who to be, how to behave, what's allowed. So maybe you overgive or you over apologize, overachieve even, because somewhere you learned that that's what earns love or that's what keeps you safe. Okay? Your body is reacting to the past even when your mind is in the present. Okay? So the real work isn't in adding more. It's in unlearning the patterns that were never truly yours. Okay? It's kind of like, talked about like making Michelangelo. Take away everything that wasn't Michelangelo, and there it is. Like, what happens when you take away everything that's not Sarah, that's not Kim, that's not Wendy, that's not when you take away all the things that aren't you? What is left there? So which part of this whole safe trap do you notice in your life right now? So, like in the chat, just reflect a little bit on that. Is it the survival mode thinking? Is it those energy leaks from past conditioning? Is it the avoidance of expansion? Or is it fear-based decisions or lack thereof? And it's okay if it's all of them too. It's probably might be, and that's okay. I know for me, I relate to all of them in different parts of my life and in different things that I've been through. So, okay, we've got a bunch of different combinations of it here. E with a dash of S. I like that, Margot. Wendy, survival mode, also avoidance of expansion. Tracy, avoidance has been the most recent pattern. Okay, we've got a bunch of different options here. Thank you guys. All right, so the problem is when you're trapped in this loop, you can't access ease, even if you try. Okay, so I'll give you an example. I had a client, Rachel. I worked with her last year, and she came to me like super burnout, constantly overthinking and just stuck in this cycle of starting and stopping, always before the big breakthroughs, always before the wins, right? And after just a few sessions, like working with subconscious beliefs and like really nourishing her nervous system in ways that she hadn't been, I remember like she came into her session and she was like, for the first time, I feel like I can actually like follow through without forcing myself. Like it wasn't that forcing feeling. And she's like, it feels like things are actually like unfolding. There's this like, calm clearness. And I remember saying like panic feels optional. And I loved hearing that. I was like, and like, have you guys ever thought about that? Like that some of these fears and anxieties are completely optional and that you actually have like immense power in your mind to change those outcomes. So yeah, I mean, she couldn't say those things before. So it was a big win.